Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, entitled Remembrance of Lord Krishna, Text 21. Swayam tva asamyatishayastrayadhishah asamyatishayastrayadhish Swarajya lakshmi apta samasta kamaha Balim harabdhischiralokapalai harabdhischiralokapalai Kirita kotyedita pada pitha kotyedita pada pitha Swayam tva asamyatishayastrayadhishah Swarajya lakshmi apta samasta kamaha Balim haradbhischiralokapalai Kirita kotyedita pada pitha Swayam tva asamyatishayastrayadhishah Swarajya lakshmi apta samasta kamaha Balim haradbhischiralokapalai Kirita kotyedita pada pitha Vaishnavis. samastakama. Kireetakotyeditapadapitah. Okay. Yes, thank you. Word for word translation. Swayam, himself. Tu, but. Asamya, unique. Atishayah, greater. Three Adishah, Dishah, Lord of the three. Swarajya, independent supremacy. Lakshmi, fortune. Apta, achieved. Samasta kamaha, all desires. Balim, worshipping paraphernalia. Haradbhi, offered by. Chiralokapalai, by the eternal maintainers of the order of creation. Kireetakotya, millions of helmets. Iditapadapitah, feet honored by prayers. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna is the Lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation, who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets to his feet. Purport. Lord Krishna is so mild and merciful as described in the above verses, and yet he is the Lord of all kinds of threes. He is the supreme Lord of the three worlds, the three qualities of material nature, and the three Purushas, Karunakshay, Garbhodakshay, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. There are innumerable universes, and each and every universe there are different manifestations of Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra. Besides that, there is the Shesh Murti who bears all the universes on his hoods. And Lord Krishna is the Lord of all of them. As the incarnation of Manu, he is the original source of all Manus in innumerable universes. Each universe has a manifestations of 504,000 Manus. He is the Lord of the three principal potencies, namely Chit Shakti, Maya Shakti, and Tadastha Shakti. And he is the complete master of 6 kinds of fortune: wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. There is none who can excel him in any matter of enjoyment, and certainly there is no one greater than him. No one is equal to or greater than him. It is the duty of everyone, whoever and wherever one may be, to surrender completely unto him. It is not wonderful, therefore, that all the transcendental controllers surrender to him and make all offerings of worship. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today to try to speak something on the Srimad Bhagavatam At the lotus feet of their lordships, Radha Madhav, Panchatatva and Narasimhadev, I seek the blessings of all the devotees so that I can speak on this exalted topic. Okay. So I'll be using this as a whiteboard to write and draw some things. So let's try to understand where we are in the Bhagavatam right now. In the Bhagavatam, we are right now in the 3rd canto, in the 2nd chapter. And this is called Remembrance of Lord Krishna. Now here, the Bhagavatam is often a set of nested conversations. So there is a conversation, for example, between Suta Goswami and Naimisharanya sages. And then within that, from the 2nd canto starts the conversation between Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And here within that, we have a conversation specifically between Uddhava and who is the other person? Vidura. So, here Uddhava and Vidura have met, and Vidura is asking about the well-being of Krishna. So Vidura has been out in the forest for a very long time, and he is, in one sense, unaware of what has happened. And in the meanwhile, Uddhava has witnessed one of the most devastating things that a human being can ever witness. You know, when we have distress is just a fact of life. That the world is dukkhalaya. Everybody has to face distress. But there are some forms of distress. All distress is painful. But there is some distress which is painful, not just for the body or the mind, but even for our very soul. And this is where, it is when this happens that our faith can become very easily challenged. And among all the things that a person can witness, suppose somebody is a soldier fighting in an army. Now, if a colleague falls, if colleague dies, that's painful. But if one's, say, commander dies, that's even more painful. Because a colleague dying is one loss, commander dying means the army itself may lose direction now. But suppose a commander who is supposed to be very powerful, almost infallible, undefeatable, a commander who is supposed to be undefeatable, like somebody is so good at sword fighting that nobody can defeat them in sword fighting, and that person dies in a sword fight only. And the question will come, this is our best sword fighter and this person has fallen, then what hope is there for us to ever fight and win? So the extent of the morale being not just shaken but even shattered can be overwhelming. So now Uddhava, if you consider the scale, Uddhava has similarly experienced something devastating. It is one thing to have his home, Dwarka, devastated. It is another thing to have Dwarka Vasis fight and kill themselves. There's a fratricide among them. And it's worst of all is to see Krishna die by an arrow, a mere arrow of all things. Now of course Krishna doesn't die, but he has seen that. It's one thing if we live in a particular city and that city becomes flooded or devastated, there's an earthquake. It's quite shocking. Even one part of our home gets cracked, we feel pain. Entire city is razed. It's horrifying. So here the whole Dwarka is destroyed. That's bad enough. He saw, it's one thing everybody dies sooner or later. But it's quite another to see people who love each other, people whom we love, fight like mad and kill each other. And then on top of that, the person whom we consider to be the Lord, that Lord is felled by an insignificant arrow. And that too, the arrow is not even shot by any warrior. The arrow is shot by whom? A hunter, a mere hunter. And that too, the arrow hits merely the leg. That leg wounds are generally not fatal. They're painful, but they're not fatal. So, we cannot imagine a situation which can be more challenging or even confounding for one's faith than what Uddhava has witnessed. So, Prabhupada in some ways witnessed this when the Gaudiya Math fell apart. The Gaudiya Math had many exalted devotees. Bhaktivedanta Thakur was the founder. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, relatively speaking, departed somewhat unexpectedly. Of course, according to a divine plan, but departed unexpectedly. And then, after that, the devotees who were supposed to be his leaders started fighting among each other. And the preaching mission was completely devastated. It was. Prabhupada could have said, if this mission is so pure, then why is it falling apart like this? It would have been so easy for him just to abandon it. And Prabhupada was not in one sense very invested in the mission. Prabhupada was not like a brahmachari or a sannyasi who was dependent on the mission. Prabhupada was a grahastha and he had his own life and his own career. And generally when there are too many problems in something, then we feel, do I need to be ever involved in this? I just want to get out of here. So like that, we see that there are times in our life when our faith will be challenged at its very foundation. So any problem can lead us to some sort of negative feeling. But having negative feelings is one issue. Many of us, when we have some problems in whichever temple we are at, we may have some questions, some issues with the local authorities, local devotees. But still we have our faith in Krishna, we have faith in the process of bhakti. And we continue on. And we find our space and continue on. But here, at the very foundation, is Krishna really God? If he's God, how did all this happen to his loved ones? How did this happen to him? Such questions could very easily have afflicted Uddhava. It could have shaken and shattered his faith. And in this series of verses, he begins when Uddhava asks him, so Uddhava is asked by Vidura, what happened? How is Krishna? He says, the son of our dynasty has departed. What welfare can I talk about? He's in agony. The Bhagavatam describes very poetically that when he hears the words about, hears questions about Krishna, it's almost as if he gets lost. It's like he gets transported to the spiritual world. And he's absorbed, and after a few moments he comes back to this world. After coming back to this world, then he starts speaking. So he does describe what has happened, but that description is very small. Oh, that Krishna has departed from the world. And his focus is on the nectarian remembrance of Krishna. And he will describe the various pastimes of Krishna. And in this particular verse he says that Apta Kamaha Lakshmya Swarajya Lakshmya Apta Samasta Kamaha, that he has just seen the most unimaginable, the most unbearable of misfortune befall everyone including Krishna, and still his faith is strong. They saying Krishna is the Lord of all good fortune. He is Trayadhisha. He is the Lord of all threes. So how is he able to maintain his faith? He is talking about the glories of the Lord, and in one sense, similar verses glorifying the Lord are found repeatedly in the Bhagavatam. But if we look at the context in which these prayers are being said, This is remarkable. We may say that in a Vyasasan we may give a class, Krishna is the supreme controller, Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. But say somebody has extremely painful cancer and they're wasting away and vegetating and they are in a hospital. And if at that time they say Krishna is the supreme controller, Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. That requires a lot of faith to say that. And that will have a much greater impact on us. Either this person is just saying it for the sake of saying it, but what are they to gain by that? If they're saying it with conviction, that has a much greater impact. Srila Prabhupada himself had a fairly long, prolonged sickness in 1977. And even then, he was consistently glorifying Krishna by speaking the Bhagavatam, by talking about Krishna with devotees. And one of the last purports that he dictated, he says, Krishna is the supreme controller. Krishna is in charge of everything. And that statement has a lot of gravitas, a lot of weight because of the context in which it's said. So that's why when we consider the impact of a statement, how much impact it has, it depends on many things. It depends on the content of the statement, what is said, but also depends on the context of the statement. Who is saying it? When are they saying it? So this particular statement, this is, as I said, it can seem to be like a glorification of Krishna that occurs so many times in the Bhagavatam. But in the context in which it is being spoken, it is nothing short of utterly extraordinary. So how do we maintain such faith if our faith is challenged? God forbid, such a challenge may never come to our faith to such a degree. But at some time or the other, the nature of life is events will happen that will challenge our faith. The key is Buddhi Yoga. So this is 10.10 in the Bhagavad Gita. Buddhi Yoga comes several times in the Bhagavad Gita. But let's focus on 10.10. Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So the word Buddhi Yoga has many meanings, but one meaning that is relevant for us is the buddhi to do yoga. That the intelligence to connect with Krishna. At whatever be the situation we are in, we have to connect with Krishna. And we have to see that situation in a way that we can connect with Krishna. And in one sense, that is the key responsibility of every devotee. That the nature of the world is, if I am here, there is a spectrum of events that will be happening. And some will be positive in the sense that favorable for our devotion, some will be negative. Now, if we look at the evidence, at the events that are negative, we'll actually start asking, where is Krishna? Why is Krishna not helping me? Does Krishna even exist? But if we look at the events that are positive, then, I'll explain what positive and negative mean shortly, but then we will be able to maintain our faith. Not only maintain, but strengthen our faith. If we consider Prabhupada's own example, let's take 3 examples. We'll start with Prabhupada, then we'll go to Vidura, who is the second conversationist here, and then we'll come to Uddhava. So now Prabhupada, he met his Guru Maharaj in 1922. And by that time he was already married, he had a child. So he said, it would be unfair for my wife if I renounce and join the mission, for my wife and family. So then Prabhupada decided that he would work very hard and establish a business. And with that business, he would fund his Guru Maharaj's mission. And some astrologer had said that he might become one of the wealthiest persons in the country. And if you look at Prabhupada as a grahastha, now he has tried his business at 3 different places. First, he started in Kolkata itself. Then he went to the opposite of the country in Mumbai. Then he went to Prayag. Now I have talked with devotees who have my friends, devotee scholars, little scholars of history. They said in 1920s, roughly, at that time mobility was not so much. People would not travel so much, or not certainly not relocate so much. And this is not a small relocation. And nowadays, transporting and relocating people relocate from one country to another also. But at that time, to start an entirely new business in another part of the country, if you consider 3 different parts of the country, east, west, and north. So Prabhupada worked hard, and he was working extremely hard, and his motive was also pure. It was not just that he wanted to become wealthy and enjoy the wealth. He wanted to serve his Guru Maharaj's mission. And what happened? Somehow, every single endeavor was frustrated. Sometimes a fire broke out, sometimes one of his aides cheated and took away the wealth. This happened, the time was wrong, and not one of those endeavors really worked very well. And then at that time, Prabhupada came across that verse, Yasyaham anugrahanami harishye tadhanam shanai tato dhanam tajatyasya swajana dukkha dukkita. That for one on whom Krishna shows special mercy, Krishna takes everything away. Now, most of us, when we hear this verse, we say that, I don't want such special mercy. Ordinary mercy is good enough for me. But the point is that Prabhupada could have been resentful. Why is this happening to me? But Prabhupada saw this verse. Prabhupada talked with his godbrother Sridhar Maharaj, and he said, yes, Abhay Babu, this seems to apply to you. And Prabhupada took that as an opportunity to shift his focus from building a business to direct preaching. And there also it was not that success came immediately. Success came later. So, but the point was, when there were setbacks, there were setbacks and severe setbacks. But Prabhupada, for him, that did not lead to dejection. From the setback, there was a comeback. How did Prabhupada come back? He tried something else. And he was possible to do that because he maintained his faith in Krishna. So, the point is that Prabhupada was able to see the adversity that he was going through in devotionally favorable terms. And Prabhupada uses the word, he said we should all surrender to Krishna. And yes, it is surrender to Krishna, but Sharanagati, that there are 6 limbs of Sharanagati, the first 2 and the last 4. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati iti vishwaso goptrutve varnam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidaha Sharanagati. Now the last 4 in this are dispositions of the faith that Krishna is the protector, Krishna is the maintainer, Atmanikshep, that feeling that one is worthless without Krishna, or offering one's complete being to Krishna. These are dispositions. They will take time to develop. We can't suddenly one day wake up and feel, yeah, Krishna is my protector. We say Krishna is my protector, and if no protection, they say, Krishna, where are you? After some time the question will come. So it's not that simple. But the first 2 are decisions. Accept what is favorable and avoid what is unfavorable. And that means surrender is not just like passive. Krishna, I raise my hands and surrender. Surrender is dynamic, it's active. In every situation, when we have to surrender, we have to see what is favorable for Krishna, for my Krishna consciousness, and choose that. And what is unfavorable for my Krishna consciousness, I need to avoid that. So for example, if we are sitting in a class, maybe the person sitting next to us is just talking on phone, and that's distracting us. Then surrender doesn't mean, okay, whatever Krishna wants, let it happen. Krishna doesn't want me to hear this class. No, that's not the point of surrender, isn't it? Surrender means what is favorable for me. If I come here for what is favorable for my devotion, that okay, I should actually hear the class. Maybe I request that person to go out, or if that person is not likely to listen to me, then I move somewhere else. So surrender is that not just active, these 2 decisions, you could say they are active, not passive. In fact, we can also say it's proactive. Proactive means we should be evaluating what is favorable and what is unfavorable. So, in the world, So the point I'm making is Prabhupada could have seen that everything is going wrong, and that means Krishna doesn't want me to preach. Why should I preach? The Prabhupada saw it as Krishna wants me to preach in a different way, by not getting involved in so much in money, but focusing directly on direct preaching. So similarly, if we consider Vidura himself, now Vidura has also just subjected to a great failure. See, Vidura tried lifelong to try to persuade Dhritarashtra to stop antagonizing the Pandavas, to stop pandering to Duryodhana. And there was always some hope that Dhritarashtra might listen. But Dhritarashtra was too attached to Duryodhana. So, if we consider Vidura was virtuous, Dhritarashtra was attached. So, he was weak. And then there was Duryodhana. Duryodhana was outright evil, vicious. So Vidura had a relationship with Dhritarashtra, but Dhritarashtra had a relationship with Duryodhana, which happened to be much stronger. And after trying lifelong, finally what had happened was Duryodhana had publicly, in the presence of Dhritarashtra, viciously insulted Vidura. And at that time, what happened? With Duryodhana's words did not hurt him very much. But it was Dhritarashtra's silence that hurt Vidura much more. See, in a conflict, the harshest words of our critics don't hurt us as much as the silence of our friends. Now, if we see the situation here, it's like Vidura and Dhritarashtra in one generation, and Duryodhana is another generation. So generally, with our elders, we should be very polite and respectful as much as possible. So imagine if there are two spiritual masters, and there's one spiritual master's disciple. I'm just deliberately giving a provocative example. Hopefully such a thing never happens in real life, but just to understand the gravity of the injury. Say that the disciple of one spiritual master viciously criticizes another spiritual master. Now, in the presence of that spiritual master, that is, that Shishya is criticizing the god brother of his guru. And now, okay, somebody doing like that is bad enough. But if this god brother sees that the other spiritual master, the person who is the authority figure of the disciple, that person also remains silent. Okay, this person might be immature, that kind of behavior, it's terrible, but it can be overlooked. But your silence, it's much more difficult to overlook that, isn't it? This is what sometimes Prabhupada had to endure when he brought the Krishna consciousness to Vrindavan, to Mayapur. That apart, the point is, Vidura could have said, all my life's efforts are wasted. I invested so much time in this Dhritarashtra, and he can't even speak one word in support of me. What is the use of my entire life? But Vidura saw it differently. Vidura saw that while Duryodhana's words are spoken because of his envy, because of his arrogance, he was clearly under Mahamaya. But Vidura saw that through his words, Yogamaya is acting. That I am getting a reason to no longer have to stick by Dhritarashtra's side. Because if he had stuck by Dhritarashtra's side, then he would have had to fight against the Pandavas. So, Vidura saw those same words not as, oh, it shows the waste of my entire life's efforts. He saw it as, actually, this is an opportunity for me to become disentangled from this war. So, again, this is Buddhi Yoga. The Buddhi to do yoga. Vidura's vision of being insulted by Duryodhana. So this is something which we will see all the time. My life's efforts are wasted. He could have seen like that, but he did not. Instead, what is he? This gives me a reason for disentangling myself from the war. So, This is something which all of us need to do. That whatever situation comes in our life, it is our responsibility to see it in a way that is favorable for our devotion. So this is Buddhi Yoga. Now what is, if we consider here, Uddhava himself, what is he doing? He is remembering. See, he could have remembered the departure of Krishna, and that would have been very painful and challenging for the faith. But he is remembering the pastimes of Krishna. The pastimes of Krishna and the position of Krishna throughout his life. And by remembering this, this is favorable for his devotion. So this is Buddhi Yoga. Now does this mean that if there are problems, we just don't look at the problems? No, it's not like that. Uddhava is not denying that, Uddhava is not denying that Krishna has departed from the world. But Uddhava is not focusing on that. Yes, however Krishna may have departed, Krishna still remains the Lord. And it is on his divinity, it is on his divine position that I am going to focus. And he is remembering the Lord's pastimes. So, now Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas explains that pastimes like the departure of Krishna are what is called as Asur Mohan Leela. Asur Mohan Leela means that these are pastimes meant to delude those who are atheistic, those who are demoniac. Now we say, why would Krishna want to delude the demoniac? Doesn't Krishna want to enlighten everyone? Yes, Krishna does want to enlighten everyone, but Krishna is also reciprocating with everyone's desires. So, Nityo Nityanam Chetnas Chetnanam Eko Bahuna Yo Vidadhati Kaman. So, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman means that one Lord is maintaining everyone. Now that maintenance is not just in terms of the bodies, that Krishna is providing people food, water, air, in spite of whether they are theists or non-theists. That Krishna is the maintainer, but he is the maintainer not just in terms of bodily needs, but he is also the maintainer in terms of beliefs. If somebody wants to believe something, Krishna will give that person reasons to believe that thing. So, when talking about the Devta and the worship of the Devtas, Krishna says that yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhayarchitum ichyati tasya achalam shraddham tam eva vidadhamyaham. So, he says, if somebody wants to worship the Devtas, then Krishna says in 721, I make their faith strong. If that's what we want to believe, that's what you can believe. I'll give you reasons. I will direct you to the scriptures of the goddess or the scriptures glorifying Shiva, glorifying this person or that person, and that way your faith will become strong. So, this is the key principle. Strength of faith is not necessarily equivalent to the correctness of faith. Somebody may have a very strong faith. Because they have that strong desire, Krishna gives them faith in that particular thing. But just because their faith is strong does not necessarily mean their faith is correct. Because Krishna is mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna reciprocates with our desires. And if somebody has a strong desire to believe something, that is what Krishna will guide them towards. So, if we consider, say, atheism. Now, if we look at the world around us, there is such extraordinary evidence of so much intricate coordination and harmony in the world. It's almost impossible for any rational person to think that all this could come without any organizing principle. Now, if we consider something simple as clouds. Now, clouds are actually remarkable technology. Clouds are like mobile, airborne, and aircraft proof water tanks. Isn't it? They are airborne. Now, even with the best of technology, we don't have anything like this. The Twin Tower designers could make it aircraft proof. So, clouds are a miracle of nature and they are necessary for our sustenance of life. And it's an extraordinary arrangement by which water from the oceans or the water bodies comes to the land masses and nourishes all living beings. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava. It's parjanya, through rains it happens. Now, atheists will argue, if rains are arranged by God through the clouds to provide humans or to provide living beings water, then why does it rain on the oceans? Yes, it rains on the ocean so that atheists can ask questions like this. So, if that is the evidence you want to focus on, there will be evidence for you to focus on. Like you come to a building with 100 homes, building with 100 rooms, and 99 rooms are very clean and tidy, and one room is untidy. They can either look at all the 99 rooms that are clean and think, there must be some person who's in charge of this room, somebody is maintaining the house. Or you can look at that one room which is untidy and say that nobody is maintaining this house. It depends on us. So, sometimes I was in America, I was giving a class, college student asked me, why do bad things happen to good people? So I asked him, why should bad things not happen to good people? He said, what do you mean? He said, no, good things should happen to good people. Why do bad things should happen to bad people? He says, why? If there is no organizing principle, if there is no God, then why should there be any correlation between the actions that we do and the results that we get? Isn't it? This question itself presumes an organizing principle. And this question troubles us. Why do bad things happen to good people? Because we do generally see a pattern. That if, suppose somebody eats healthy, their health will be better. Somebody eats unhealthy, their health will get spoiled. If somebody smokes and drinks and indulges in all kinds of pleasures, they have unhealthy habits, they will go down toward poor health. So now there will be exceptions. Somebody smokes and they get lung cancer. Yes, that happens most of the times. But somebody may smoke and not get lung cancers. And somebody may not smoke and get lung cancer. So there are exceptions, no doubt. But why are these exceptions there? The exceptions serve as excuses. Excuses for those who don't want to accept reality, for deniers. So yes, some people may not smoke and still get lung cancer. Does that justify smoking? No, still smoking is harmful. So this is, we see this principle throughout existence. That if somebody wants to deny reality, they will find reasons for denying reality. Even fundamental operational reality. That, see, when smoking, when it initially in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, smoking was considered very fashionable. And all movie stars used to smoke. And then it became more and more clear that smoking was associated with cancer and other diseases. So then what happened was, there are several of the smoking companies, they funded some highly influential scientists and they did research and they said, actually, smoking is not the cause of cancer. They said, actually there is some unknown gene. And this gene makes people smoke and this gene causes cancer. Now nobody found this gene basically, but that was their theory. That is why, because they are funded by the scientists. So Einstein said science is a wonderful thing as long as you don't have to earn money from it. So this is not to criticize scientists. This is the point is that if somebody wants to deny something, can come up with a lot of reasons for denying those things. So similarly, here, each one of us, when we face situations in our life, we can look at our own life and it's up to us to decide, what evidence am I going to focus on? We could say, oh, there are so many things going wrong in my life. This relationship is not working, and this person is like this, and my health is going down, my finances are problems, my service is not being appreciated. Yes, all those may be true. And we could look at that and we could say, this Krishna Bhakti doesn't work, this Krishna consciousness doesn't work. Or we could look at the big picture of our life. When we come to places like Mayapur, we see hundreds and thousands of devotees for the morning program. It's so inspiring to see. If most of the other places we go, there are not so many devotees. So actually every person here is special, is fortunate, is blessed. If we look at our own lives, the chances that we would have come to Krishna are actually infinitesimal. Some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples and some of the stalwart leaders of our movement, they were already great seekers of God. They went out searching for God, maybe going across the country, across the world to find God. Now, as far as I was concerned, I didn't go out searching for God. God's devotees came out searching for me. Isn't it? So, even when we were not practicing bhakti, when we were not interested in God or in bhakti, still Krishna came to our lives. And Krishna gave us an opportunity to practice bhakti. So, if I consider my life journey, I am here right now. And I may have some big problems right now. We're not denying the reality or the gravity of the problems. You may there. Either I can see, we have this capacity, we can abstract ourselves. That means if I am here, I can visualize that I am above this situation and I can evaluate, look at myself. So I can either look at this situation and lose faith, or I can look back at my life and the fact that many times, even without our desire, without our searching, we were brought to Krishna, we were taken ahead in our journey toward Krishna, and that can help us gain faith. Krishna has not brought us this far to abandon us now. If Krishna had wanted to abandon us, why would he have even brought us this far? If we look at our own life journey, so many things could have gone wrong. And yes, many things have gone wrong, but the very fact that we are alive means that there is more right than wrong in our life. And the fact that we are still within the association of devotees, still practicing bhakti, suggests that there is definitely much more right than wrong. So the Buddhi Yoga, how does it come? It is not just by being creative in our intelligence. The key is bhajatam priti purvakam. When we are practicing bhakti affectionately, then Krishna, I am grateful for the opportunity to serve you. Krishna, I am grateful that I have an opportunity to chant, I have the opportunity to associate with devotees. When we have that priti purvakam, that we may not have ecstasy right now, but we all can have gratitude. And even if we have this gratitude, then Krishna will see that and Krishna will give us the intelligence by which we can come to him. So our part is keep that grateful consciousness. So we can't always be, when you talk about gratitude, it's very difficult to be grateful for all situations. Because some situations are really difficult. It's not really easy. But we can be grateful in all situations. When there are problems, there is no evidence that Draupadi was grateful that Dushasan tried to disrobe her. It would be inhuman to expect her to be grateful for that. But she was grateful that Krishna was still her Lord, that Krishna had intervened, that her husbands were there with her. The forest, not she was constantly burning with resentment. So sometimes the situation we are in is so difficult that it's very difficult to be grateful for that situation. But if we don't reduce our vision of life to our present situation, we look at the big picture of our life, we'll find that each one of us has a lot to be grateful for. And even if we can't be grateful for all situations, we can be grateful in all situations by looking beyond that situation. And by that gratitude, we'll attract Krishna's mercy. And that mercy will come in the form of Buddhi Yoga, the intelligence by which we can come closer to Krishna even through that difficult situation. So I'll summarize. I spoke 3 main points today. First, I spoke about distresses and how the most challenging distresses are those which are faith damaging. So, Uddhava's predicament was like seeing not just a soldier, a colleague die, a commander die, but one supreme commander who is supposed to be like a top sword fighter diving in sword fight. So, Dwarka was devastated. The Dwarka Vasis divided the fire fratricidal fight among themselves, and Krishna also departed. So it would have been so easy to lose faith. We discussed similarly with Srila Prabhupada also when his mission, his spiritual master's mission, it disintegrated. So this can be the extremely difficult situation. And then we discussed that at such times we need Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi Yoga is the intelligence to the Buddhi to come to Krishna. So that requires us to use our intelligence in a way to bring a devotional reading of the situation. So I took 3 examples, like how Prabhupada saw his business setbacks as yasyaham anugrahanami. Then Vidura, how he saw Duryodhana's insult as an opportunity to disentangle himself from the world. How in Uddhava, he saw that rather than focusing on Krishna's departure, he focused on Krishna's pastimes throughout his life. So when we say surrender, it is active, proactive, where we use our intelligence to focus on the positive. So we discussed how last point was that the evidence of the universe, if we want, we can have faith. We want, we can lose faith. We discussed the example of clouds. We can discuss example of our own lives. We can look at all that is wrong in our life at present and lose faith, or we can look at the big picture and see how there is so much more right in our life. So which evidence do we choose to focus on? It's our choice of focus, of what our focus will be. And then in this connection, I discuss one last point is that when we choose to be grateful, it's difficult to be grateful for all situations, but we can be grateful in all situations. Then we will get, by Krishna's mercy, the Buddhi Yoga, the devotional insight by which we can maintain our faith and come closer to Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Does anyone have one question? Yes, Mataji.
Thank you for a brilliant class on affirmative psychology. This is a really wonderful counseling session for all of us. So I'm very grateful for this. My question is about exactly what you said. When our faith is shaken, when we find that those in authority, leaders, who are supposed to be exemplary in behavior, a huge scandal breaks out and you realize so many children have been traumatized, so many children have committed suicide. And then the silence of those who should speak for the victims is much more painful than what has happened. I mean, that's also painful. But those who should now make amends, or those who should speak in favor of justice, when they keep silent, what are we, the next generation, supposed to do? If you can kindly enlighten. Thank you.
Yes. It's a very difficult situation to be in when we see something going wrong around the world and not something like children being abused and it's not being fixed or action not being taken. Prabhupada writes in the 7th canto, one of the purports, that one should always keep oneself healthy and stout in mind and intelligence to distinguish the goal of life from a life full of problems. So that means, say if I am here, there will be hundreds of things wrong around me. One thing wrong is my drawing also, so please excuse me for that. But it's a life full of problems. So Prabhupada says we need to be clear, we should be able to distinguish the goal of life from a life full of problems. So if we say, this is Krishna, and this is the goal of life. Now, how can I move toward Krishna? There are so many problems in the world, we cannot fix all of them. Now, does that mean we just neglect the world? No, not definitely, that's not what I'm saying. That we have to see what is my service in this situation. So, generally there is guna and karma. This applies for varnashram, for determining our varna, but this can also in general apply for us to decide whether I want to take up a particular responsibility, I want to fight a particular battle or not. So you could say guna broadly refers to the disposition, and karma refers to the position we are in, by which we can do that particular activity. So generally speaking, reform can happen. If you look at broad institutional history, we look at Gaudiya history also, reform can happen from inside, it can happen from outside, or it can happen on the margin. So what does that mean? If you look at when the Gaudiya Math broke apart, Prabhupada did not enter into Gaudiya Math to try to reform it. Prabhupada created a new system, that is, he rejuvenated Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but that was from outside. Now, if you look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was born in a Shakta family, and he was introduced to Gaudiya Vaishnavism a little later. And then what did he do? Actually, even before he had taken initiation, he had already written several books on Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And he was influencing the Bhadraloka, the educated elite class of Bengalis at that time. But then he recognized that if his words are to have a greater impact, he took initiation from a person who was considered respectable in the Gaudiya community at that time. Although whether that person was really that exemplary is open to question. He took formal initiation from him. And then he got credibility because of his initiation connection with the Gaudiya Vaishnava community also. And then by that, his literature was more widely accepted, not just by outsiders of the Gaudiya Vaishnava community, but also insiders. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur worked from inside. He was an outsider, he came inside, and from inside he worked for reformation. If we consider what Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur did, now Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, more or less, he worked on the margin. That means the same person from whom Bhaktivinoda Thakur had taken initiation, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur challenged him in a debate, the famous Brahmana versus Vaishnava debate. The person on the opposite side was the the Diksha Guru, the initiating spiritual master of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So what Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur did was, he challenged the stranglehold that the caste Goswamis had on Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So he didn't really seek their approval authority. He rather created the Gaudiya Math, which is not completely going outside. He was a follower of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he worked on the margins. So each one of us has to decide, how we can be a part of the change. So some people may say, I just don't want to do anything with this. Now Prabhupada didn't generally recommend that. Prabhupada said, whatever be the problems with our movement, you stay inside and try to reform. And we see that the service, if we say a service to Krishna, is like a relay race. In a relay race, what happens is, each person has to take the torch from, say, here or a particular distance. The next person takes the torch over the remaining distance. So like that, maybe it is our responsibility is to do some service, but maybe the results are not going to come in our lifetime. Mm. But so like we know when the Ganga was brought to the earth, the Jalangi over here, many kings performed austerities for their entire lifetime. And finally, it was one king who brought the earth, brought the Ganga to the earth. Who was that? Bhagirath. So Bhagirathi Ganga is known as. But he gets the credit. He is the person who takes it across the finishing line. But that doesn't mean the efforts of everyone else were forgotten. The world may not recognize them, but Krishna recognizes them. So we have to, each of us has to decide according to our guna and karma, according to our disposition and position, how much do we want to fight a particular battle. There are many things which need to be fixed. And Prabhupada's general mood was, instead of Prabhupada did not wait for the Gaudiya Math leadership to change. Prabhupada himself became the change. And it's significant, Prabhupada did not go about criticizing the Gaudiya Math leadership also. It was only later when they tried to take Prabhupada's disciples away and confuse them, then Prabhupada spoke a little strongly about them. But even then Prabhupada was maintained respectfulness. So the point is that we all have a particular capacity right now, and we all work according to that capacity. So yes, anybody who has suffered, been traumatized, it's horrible. We pray that they recover from it and that something like that never happens. At the same time, we shouldn't let what is happening in the moment come between us and Krishna. We have to make sure that we are moving toward Krishna, and while moving toward Krishna, we can see how much we can fix. Sometimes fixing things can become such a mission, such a fixation with us that in fixing things we may not stay fixed in Krishna ourselves. We may go away from Krishna. So then that is not healthy. I hope that provides some pointers.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So what I'm hearing is find your mission within the mission and focus on that.
Yes, good.
Thank
Perfect.
Thank you.
It's like Prabhupada has this huge umbrella, you can say that's the Krishna conscious movement, and within that we can pick our small umbrella and then try to make sure that we hold it aloft. Okay? Thank you. Yes, so there's one question here behind. We'll stop with this.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. So, Prabhuji, this verse that you were telling, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam and Dadami Buddhi, these two part, what is this Buddhi Yoga is exactly means something when we come closer to Krishna, that only does it mean Buddhi Yoga, ke we would come closer to Krishna. And Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, in simple terms, what is the definition of Bhajatam Priti Purvakam? It's simply following what the Prabhupada has given, or something beyond Bhajatam Priti Purvakam becomes?
See, words have multiple meanings. Now, Buddhi Yoga, Krishna himself uses it differently. There are three meanings. If you look at 239, Esha te abhita sankhe buddhir yoge toimam shunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandhan prahasyasi. So the same term Buddhi Yoga is used. Buddhi Yoga here in 239, it basically refers to applying Atma Gyan. Because Krishna has said, I have told you Atma Gyan, now I will tell you how to apply Atma Gyan. And then what he describes afterward is Karma Yoga. He doesn't really describe Bhakti Yoga in the second chapter much. So you could say Buddhi to practice yoga. So the Buddhi there is the Atma Gyan. The yoga there is Karma Yoga. So that is in the second chapter. But in the verse that we discussed, 10.10, the whole context is devotional. It's Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. And then there, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayantite. So we have to look at the context of the word to understand their meanings. So that's Buddhi to do yoga. It can be different yogas also. It can be, the Buddhi can be different based on different realities. But in 10.10, it refers to the Buddhi that Krishna is our well-wisher, by which the yoga is, I want to go to closer to Krishna in whatever situation I am in. So we are focusing on that meaning in 10.10. Now, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, does it mean simply doing what Srila Prabhupada has said? Yes, definitely. But Prabhupada has said many things. For example, Prabhupada said chant and be happy. Now, this is what? Now you could call this as one instruction. Chant and be happy. Chant and you will be happy. But you could also consider them as two instructions. Now chant and be as happy as is possible in this world. Practice happiness as an austerity. So even when we are chanting, we will have reasons to be unhappy. We can always find reasons to be unhappy, but then try to be happy. The last verse in the Dharma series, 1-22 in the Bhagavatam is Atavai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramayamuda vasudeve bhagavati kurvante atma prasadinim. What that means is that therefore Atavai kavayo nityam, the wise people practice bhaktim paramayamuda, the process that gives great joy, paramayamuda, unto whom vasudeve bhagavati kurvante atma prasadinim. The process which gives great joy, they practice with great joy. As I am just putting the translation slightly striking way to register the point. So is it that the process gives joy or do we practice it with joy? Well, it is both. It's like, suppose somebody is sick and after a long time they have found a cure. Now they have found a cure, but that doesn't mean they are cured. Now we could say they will be cured in due course. So while they are not yet cured, they may still have some pain. But they can be happy that at least a cure has been found. Isn't it? So otherwise, they may not have the cure, but they can be resentful, I am not yet cured, I am not yet cured. So chant and be happy means, yes, when we chant, when we remember Krishna, when we become Krishna conscious, we will ultimately become happy. But till that time, we can chant and strive to be happy. That I am grateful that I have the opportunity to chant. I am grateful that I have the opportunity to practice bhakti. So, Prabhupada says, Boro Krupa Koile Krishna Adhamera Prati. When Prabhupada came to America, he, on the American coastline, when he's seeing that, he's saying, Krishna, you have been immensely merciful to me. Now, we will say, what is the mercy? Prabhupada is all alone, he has no money, he has no followers, he has no institutional support. The only resource that he had, that is his own body, that has been struck by 2 heart attacks. What is there to be grateful for? So Prabhupada on Jaladuta, what is he is saying? Krishna, you are so merciful. So, we can have the facility for service. Now Prabhupada had 0 facility for service. But Prabhupada was focusing on the opportunity for service. That at the fag end of my life, at least I have the opportunity to come to the West. My Guru Maharaj wanted me to do that. I have come here. And I am grateful for that opportunity. So, Prabhupada was himself, like, chant and be happy. Prabhupada is demonstrating that. He is happy, although he could have seen all that is wrong in his life and felt nothing is going to work. Or at least I have the opportunity. And he is grateful for that. So that's what we should try to do also. Okay. So thank you very much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur